Ross's third win shoots him to the lead in the GT points. It's been a nail-biter of a championship for the slower class. Meanwhile, Quero's impressive recovery netted him a fifth straight victory in Germany. While he can't wrap things up completely this week at Mid-Ohio, he could certainly put another nail in the coffin. Let's see how it all plays out as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the PRL Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Mid-Ohio went from club course fun to worldwide fame in a matter of decades. To find out a bit more about it, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sportscar Course. Located halfway between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, this track has become a road racing staple in the Midwest. Despite its name, one of the biggest events of the year here is usually the visit from IndyCar. The full 2¼ mile version is what is most frequently used, but it also includes a chicane layout and a short course. While each one officially has 13 turns, they do have distinct differences. The chicane layout was the only version for the first part of its history, in which the keyhole included a bus stop style back and forth jink on its entry. The short course simply bypasses the whole keyhole section altogether. The various turns have some rather famous names, such as China Beach with its downhill braking, inviting you into its eponymous sand trap, or Madness, which is a single file set of S's with drastic elevation change. There's also the carousel, and this more than 180-degree turn offers a variety of lines that can be taken. Perhaps the most unique feature of the track. Welcome to the Mid. Well, I know we're both partial to it, DJ, but what about the drivers today? Do you think with this multi-class race they'll have fun out there?
Well, fun's a word for it, Joe, but I think with the very tight confines of Mid-Ohio, it's going to be a very challenging track, and traffic management is going to be a bigger issue than we normally even talk about in this series. The track's only 2.25 miles long, so there is not a whole lot of time for everybody to catch up, and especially with the tricky nature of some of these corners, it's going to be very, very difficult. Now, some of the overtaking zones that we're going to be wanting to watch out for, well, the primary one's going to be the keyhole. That is that long 180-degree right-hander. And then also the run out of the keyhole going down into that sort of China Beach complex at turn 4. The danger areas, well, they are aplenty here. The S's are always tricky as the elevation changes on the track. You've got to be very precise with your throttle. Getting onto that right pedal a little bit too early can cause the tire to spin out. Also, coming down through Thunder Valley in turns 11 and 12 and into the carousel can very easily catch out a driver as well. So everybody's going to have to be very, very careful.
Certainly one that'll challenge people. Before we get to that, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL Sportscar Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. As we look at the championship, now you're going to notice some interesting things here once we get to the GTE standings. But in the LMP2s, as I mentioned, it is 44 points between Leighton Quero. Mauricio has been running away with things ever since he's taken the lead over Leighton, who has actually got to play defense now because Calquin is looking like he might take that second place away. Close fight for second, really. Jeffrey Ooms is in there, and he's been looking quick today in the warm-up. Christian Eisler still looking for that victory after I think we figured it out to be 2 years that he is seeking that one. 62 points back from the top. Now, in the GT standings, it should have been 2 points between our leaders, but it is 12 instead, as Don Squirrick has copped a penalty for last round after contact he made early in the race. Rafael Russo now about the same distance back in third, with Thomas Cope a little bit farther behind, sitting in fourth. He's probably looking at Ted Lowendick instead of Russo, trying to play defense to keep from getting overtaken. What about the team's championship, DJ?
Well, Joe, in that LMP2 team standings, you can see a monster gap for Punto CL Racing Rojo up front, 197 points. That is all but locked up at this point over Vector RSR LMP. Behind them, a little bit of a close battle, though, between Punto CL Racing Azul and Vector, with Final Lap Racing only 2 points off that. So very, very close battle for second. And then Pure Sims eSports is in fifth, a good ways back from them. But over on the GT side, things are a little bit closer, with L1 Esports only 36 points ahead of Davison. That is plenty to play for, and that's going to be very heated as we go along. Vector by RSR still within range to make an attack if they so choose. They're only 52 points back. Team Oblivion, they're a little bit off the pace. It's going to be hard for them to, I think, to try to catch up to that leading group, with Radicals Online just as far back in fifth.
For today's race, it's the same as we usually have, 45 minutes for round 8. So there's the two classes they can run, and it is an open setup series. Now, they have an incident limit at only 10. That means it's going to really require drivers to stay on the track, or else they'll get a drive-through penalty, and they'll actually be disqualified at 15. There's a bonus point for fastest lap, pole, or 3 incidents or less. Fastest, or the pole right now belongs to Mauricio Cuero provisionally, but he didn't seem terribly quick in the warm-up, and we still have a number of other drivers that need to come across the line, so we'll see who is able to maybe try and snatch that away from him.
Well, as we watch here, Cuero coming on by, as we said, starting a new lap. Watching him make his way down over the crest of the hill before he starts to really get onto the binders through that China Beach section. You can see just how tricky it is. Plenty of room to fight back in the race. Looks like Mauricio's handling it quite well, but he'll have to be careful. Runs it a little bit wide there.
And for a brief moment, Jennifer McDonald held the provisional pole in the GT class. That's been taken over by Thomas Cope, but that is an interesting one. Not one I expected from the 99. She's still on the front row. Of course, this could change around as they have 4 laps to try and go quicker. Looks like Lowendick is going to take that away, and Michael Ross, indeed, now up to the top spot.
That's a little bit surprising for me there, Joe. Michael Ross in that Ford GT, not exactly a car that I would have expected to be undeniable here, but here comes Cuero again. He did set the fastest lap out last time on his lap. Here comes Eisler, though, through the carousel. Let's see what the Iceman has. Brings it out nice and wide. He is able to go faster with 112 flat. That's going to bump him up to the front row in second.
Only 8 thousandths behind Mauricio Cuero, but Christian's been good in the qualifying, but poor in the races. So we'll have to see if he can back this up. Mauricio Cuero right now is heading into madness himself as it weaves back and forth. Rafael Russo, his first timed lap, comes at a 1:18.3. That'll be good enough for third, or eighth rather. And Don Squirek has taken the pole away from both Ross and Genet.
Yeah, very, very tight up at the top of that GT field. While we watch now, Horatio Calclin coming across the timing line. He's able to go faster with a 112 flat. That is almost identical of a time to Christian Eisler, only 3 thousandths of a second off.
Man, that means that our top 3 are split by only 11 thousandths of a second. Josh Wolf just crossed the line, but he doesn't go higher than 5th. Still waiting for Leighton to set a time. Looks like his first attempt had an off track, so it was discounted. Lavadier in 15th. is third to last on the field. Let's see if this run out of the carousel nets him something better on lap 3 than that 18.986. No, that one was also a non-relevant lap for him.
Yeah, and you saw that little wiggle he had coming out of the carousel. That really hurt him as Marc-Andre Desjardins is able to go a little bit faster there by about 5/10. That'll bump him up into 17th place by the looks of it. Here comes Russo. I do not expect him to be all the way down in 8th, but as he crosses over the line, only able to go about 0.5 of a second faster. That is good enough, though. He is on pole in the GTs.
I was going to say only 0.5. He just stormed his way to the front. Watching Cal Quinn, who has been shifted down to third at 1:11.9, is going to put him up to the top spot now.
Things are getting very close at the top of both fields. Here comes Teddy Lowendick. Ted's looked good. He's able to go with an 18 flat there. That'll put him to the outside of the second row in 4th place. That's a good run for the Vector driver here.
So Squirek has come back out, and his third lap counts as an out lap. He'll get 1 flyer on his final attempt. Lou Barretto looks like he improved to an 18.7. Michael Ross, who wants as many points as possible to try and hold back Squirek on that points battle, is coming up into the carousel right now. This is Genet crossing the line. And wow, barely an improvement, but an improvement nonetheless for him. This is Ross on the screen. That one looks like he had an off track somewhere.
Indeed, but you saw that little purple flash at the top right of your screen. Eisler back on the pole. Does Ooms have anything to counter him? No. Jeffrey not able to go faster there. We watch Johnny Luna now coming across the line. Johnny able to improve with a 19.4, but that's still going to have him at the back of the field for right now. James David, not a fast lap for him. Cal Quinn, it looks like, is coming into the pits, and that's 6.66. Here's Russo.
Russo slow on that lap, so not going to be able to improve. Leighton on his third try gets a 13.4. That's his quickest, but he still sits 6th out of 6 cars in his class. What about Squirek on his final flyer? A 17.6. It is his fastest, and it's going to get him the pole back from Russo.
Oh, mega lap there. Lou Barretto unable to improve. And Joe, I've got to say, that doesn't surprise me all that much. I expected the Ferraris to do a little bit better here. This course does have a little bit of everything. And the medium, the mid-engine setup of the Ferraris, it makes them a little bit easier to handle and around some of these tricky corners, certainly helping out our leaders here. But here comes Jean-Claude Langlois coming across the line, able to improve by about 1/10 of a second. That'll bump him up. Ross unable to improve on his best.
So that means he'll see 4th at best out here. Moraes in 10th goes to an 18.2. That'll put him into 8th. Leighton is coming up to finish his final lap and see if he can help his hopes of maybe sneaking in a championship, but he's going to have to be farther up the order to set himself up for a good shot on it. The 19 across the line, it's a 1:12.9. That is his best, but he's still a second off of Josh Wolf.
That's going to be tough for Tiensai to recover back from. He's really going to be hoping for a little bit of damage and problems to befall the 5 drivers ahead of him, as it is going to be, I think, a little bit harder to overtake here unless you're really able to capitalize on traffic.
It's going to be close on whether or not Luna can get his last lap in. His third one was his quickest at a 19.4, but he sits last on his field in 18th, has to make up 0.08 of a second. I misspoke earlier. It was 0.2 that Leighton was off of Wolf before, by the way. And I think this is going to be just enough time for that Corvette as he comes up to the carousel.
Indeed, you see some of that elevation change like I talked about. Got to be very careful here. Wait, a little bit dab of brakes there in the middle of the corner. That's not perfectly ideal for the way you want to take it, but it did work out a little well for Johnny. They're able to set a better time.
He blinked just as he went across. He's lucky that he set that lap, but he goes into 17th, and that is going to end our qualifying. So we'll get to our starting order here in just a second. as it ticks over, and Christian Eisler now starts on the pole once again. Horatio Calquin will be to his outside with Mauricio Cuero, our championship leader, starting from third. Jeffrey Ooms in P4 is followed by Josh Wolf in fifth, and the last of the prototype field will be Tianxai Leighton.
In that GT field, Rafael Russo will be starting off on pole, followed by Mr. Consistent as of late, Thomas Cope to his outside. Behind them, it's the two championship contenders here, Don Skoric in third, followed by Michael Ross. Behind them, Ted Lowendick puts in a very good qualifying performance, qualified fifth, followed by Arnaud Genet with EJ O'Donnell Lines and James David behind him in eighth. Iago Morris will be ninth, followed by Vincent Trepanier in 10th. Jennifer McDonald will be in 11th, followed by Jean-Claude Langlois to her outside in 12th place. Making up the row behind them will be Lou Barreto and Michael Plord, followed by Gabriel Lavadier and Philippe Munyon in 16th. And to round out the back of that GT field, it is Johnny Luna and Marc-Andre Desjardins.
The top of the GT field is split by 5 thousandths of a second. Russo, Cope, and Skoric will have their work cut out for them to try and decide this one today. I think we've just about got everybody out there. Russo looks like he is the only one that we're waiting on. So our pole sitter should hopefully line up pretty soon. And now he has plopped it on the grid. They get a very short pace lap to try and get the tires and brakes warmed up. And then they are on their way for 45 minutes of round what we expect to be a somewhat frantic multi-class race here at Mid-Ohio.
As we look at that weather there, Joe, it may be a little bit of a factor today. It is 77 degrees air temperature and 92 degrees Fahrenheit on track, so getting a little hot, but not too bad. A lot of wind, though. It's a pretty steady gust of 9 miles an hour of wind out of the south. Drivers will have to be careful for that a little bit.
And the green flag is out with Christian Eisler getting a good jump over Horatio Calquin down into the first corner. On the inside, Cuero has to fend off Ooms. It looks like he's good. Let's head to the GTs.
In those GTs, it was a very hairy start coming through the carousel, but everybody managed to sort themselves out and running in single file through that first turn.
Ooh, there was a little side-to-side contact between Ooms and Cuero. Don't have to go to it, but both of them made it out of the corner. Aggressive between those two. Watching the GTEs come off of the keyhole. Russo still retains the lead over Cope and Skoric.
Now, this is the one area that we need to watch out for those.
Sorry, Ooms is off. Ooms is off. I said it was aggressive twice in the first lap, and in subsequent corners, he and Cuero got together, but it is Jeffrey who pays the price. Well, this helps Eisler and Calquin, because that certainly slowed up Cuero slightly. He's got about a second to get up to Horatio. Of course, what we've seen tends to have pretty decent pace. Let's look at the car, though. Let's see if there's any damage on it from that.
I'm looking at it now, Joe. On that right side, looks relatively okay. Left side as well. I think he may have gotten out scot-free.
Back to our GTE leaders. And I said it's going to be tight between our top three. And look at this, across the line after the first lap. And they are spread by barely a tenth of a second. Rafael Russo still holding the advantage as they fly up towards the keyhole. Someone in the background going off. Was that Lowendick, maybe? Looked like he went kind of wide. That's going to not give him a shot at Arnaud Genet in front of him, as they all now come out of that 180-degree corner and fly back down the hill towards China Beach.
Exactly. Really looking there like Don Skoric. That's the second time I've seen him had a good run out of the keyhole. Maybe has that Ferrari trimmed out a little bit more than some of his competitors, so that'll be something to watch for. We'll keep an eye on that gap. We ride on board with Skoric now.
So looking up ahead at Thomas Cope in that number 64 machine. They aren't completely broken away from Michael Ross, though. We should mention that behind them, that our championship leader, that Ford, is still within about 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, he is. He looks like he's losing a little bit of ground, though, here in this last sector. Oh, very late on the brakes and a big lock up there behind from Ross. This is getting a little bit gnarly up front as those front three leaders trying to gap away, but getting very, very close to contact.
Russo chopped down on Cope. Really close. I am surprised that they did not make contact. This is on board with Cope, one of our drivers today that's getting a cockpit view as he tries to get the car to turn in. That Porsche just not wanting to grip on the fronts as well as Russo's Ferrari.
No, it's not, but Russo's got a heck of a run behind him. He's got a good draft in behind Cope. You can see Thomas, I think he's going to be frantically looking out his window. Russo's going to have to, Squirk's going to have to go the long way around. Goes around the outside of turn 4. He's going to have the inside now as they crest over the hill. In through that section, Cope holds him off.
Ooh, they had inches to spare between them. Squirrek will fall back to third once again. It was a valiant effort, but I have a feeling that is going to set the tone for attempted passes here today. It's not going to be easy.
No, it's not, but that was a very good run over the hill and into Thunder Valley for Thomas Cope there. You see Christian Iso starting the fastest lap of the race. He now looks like he's got a bit of a run on Russo in front of him. Is he going to be able to try to press that advantage?
Oh, contact! A little bit of a touch, and both of our two leaders go off into the grass. Squirrek inherits the top spot. Ross gets promoted to second.
We're going to jump back to the replay to check that out here, Joe, but I got to say, that looked like a little bit of ghost contact. I think Thomas Cope gave him some room. Let's check this out. We're watching these two cars in front.
Yeah, you're right. I went back and checked on my screen as well. He still had a little bit of space between himself and the car ahead, but they were fighting hard, and when that happens, you have to expect that something could go wrong. So Russo falls down to 13th, Cope falls to 9th. Everybody ahead of them is promoted 2 positions.
And that is really going to be tough for these guys. It is very difficult to pass around here, but we've got some fun coming in. We're going to keep an eye on our leader, though. This is the Iceman, Christian Eisler, currently in the lead of those LMP2s.
Not going to talk about him too much. We always seem to jinx the poor guy. Behind him, the 666, about 1.5 seconds back ratio. Cal Quinn was pretty decent in the warm-up, and the qualifying seemed to back that up with a front row start for him. But he doesn't seem to have the race pace to try and catch Icer, at least early on in this event.
Well, we've seen a couple of times Christian's pace falter a little bit as the race goes along, so it may be here that Cal Quinn is just kind of holding back, maybe saving a little bit of that attack mode, maybe even saving a little bit of his tires. Tires normally don't come that much into play here, but with all of the elevation changes that happens, he may just be trying to be a little conservative, and we'll go into full attack mode later.
We've got another on board, of course. This is pretty traditional for us. Teddy Lowendick, let's see what he's got as a surprise for us today. He's always got something unique. So we hop inside the cockpit once again. I'm disappointed by that.
It's very tame for Teddy, but he is driving a fantastic race right now, all the way up into 4th. That's a position up from his starting position. Really in a good pursuit here of Arnaud Genet, fighting for that last step on the podium.
I guess at some point you run out of some creative things to do. I'm sure he'll think of something later, but yeah, he is definitely caught up to that podium. Genet, though, is the one who holds it, and he's got to try and pull that out of his grasp as they take a little bit of extra curb there coming through the carousel, but he thankfully catches the bimmer.
He does indeed, and he and his teammate EJ O'Donnell Lines, two of only 4 BMW drivers, and they're currently carrying the standards. Oh, EJ's just had a big off behind them. I think that position is now going to be given over to James David. Indeed it is, and Morris is now challenging on the outside.
Let's take another look. This is so easy to do. He's actually lucky he didn't spin the car across the track back to the left-hand wall. I know I've ended races here at this track many a times in that manner. Let's ride on board. Here it goes.
Yeah, there he is. He just took a little bit early of an apex there, and that caused him to run wide. Very good car control from EJ to keep that thing pointed the right way, as you said, Joe. And the tricky part about that corner is it's very similar to Cops at Silverstone in an open wheel car. It's one of those things that you can probably take it flat out, but you're absolutely terrified to, and the only way you can take it flat out is if you hit the apex absolutely perfectly. And, well, if you don't, EJ just gave you a great description of what happens.
Up in front of him, his teammate Lowendick still threatening Genet for that third position as we once again come back to the fight. Little bit of wheel spin coming off the final turn for Teddy. So that'll drop him back about another car length. Let's see if he can be quicker down through the first corner. He was definitely a little bit earlier to the apex, and it's not going to get him enough.
No, it's not. I think he had to lift ever so slightly through that first corner, but let's see how the BMW and the Porsche respectively take this long keyhole. Teddy holding a little bit of a tighter line there, a little bit of a wiggle on corner exit. Nothing too much that he can't control, but that'll cost him a couple of hundredths coming down this long backstretch. This, of course, you can see the spotter stand right there. Ooh, having a little look. There is Teddy. He wants this podium.
I think we had an issue for Johnny Luna in the keyhole. Looks like a single car incident as he went into the gravel, so we'll stay here. And Luna falls down to 16th because of that mistake. Through the S's and into turn 9, Thunder Valley, where they get only a small break, and then suddenly it's right back into a quick series of corners.
Yeah, Joe, that is really one of the characteristics of Mid-Ohio that makes this such a challenging track, is you have almost no room on the circuit to stop and breathe. But Teddy Lowendick here doing a very good job of keeping up pressure at all times, making driving this circuit even harder for Genet. He is not going to try that to the inside of turn 1. He is thinking about it. Oh, Teddy catches the car, but barely.
And his teammate and 2 more cars get into him. That was Cope and Rays. He was so close to catching it, but unfortunately the cars coming through just ran out of space. In fact, 4 of them hit. James David clipped him, O'Donnell Lyons gets him, Rays, and then Cope.
Yeah, indeed. So there you can see him just taking a nose to the inside, gets a little bit too there, may have been a little bit of ghost contact. Teddy does a great job of keeping it straight, but there 1, 2, 3, and 4th time is the charm, and that sends Teddy spinning. He's now demoted all the way down into 14th.
That's a shame to see. He was having such a great race, but this is good news for James David. He'll get 4th place from that. He started in 8th in his class as well, so this is quite a climb for him. Genet up from 6th to 3rd too, we should mention. Did Thomas Cope just have a problem?
Well, he was the one that punted Teddy there, so he may have indeed picked up a little bit of damage.
He got loose in the S's and then he let 3 cars by. I don't know why though. Got a little bit of damage on the right front. I wonder if the car just not handling like he'd like. Oh, he must have hit something this lap. Let me double check and see if we missed something.
Yeah, I'm going back to check it as well. That's McDonald coming in as well.
We saw him hit something. It was Lowendick. So there was so much going on. We forgot he was one of the 4 that managed to get that damage from that incident. Oh boy, Thomas Cope just having a really miserable day. Meanwhile, you can see our leaders are already catching the back of the GT Traffic. Eisler still holding it about a second ahead of Cal Quinn.
And Horatio was able to get that gap down to about 0.7 of a second, but Traffic giveth and Traffic taketh away. Good little run there for Cal Quinn, able to get by Gabriel Lavadier. Now pulling that gap down a little bit. Christian's going to start feeling a little bit of the heat here from Cal Quinn. They've got a little bit of smooth sailing up in front of them. Rafael Russo is next ahead. He's about 5.5 seconds down the road. Whoa, big spin in the back. That's the 3rd place car of Cuero.
Well, what happened there? I think, you know what? He touched the grass, I think. Let's see on the replay.
Yeah, it's indeed what happened, Joe. I just took a look at it. So here he comes. He's got everything nice and lined up here through China Beach. Gets it over the hill, and then right here.
How hard did he hit the wall? Just maybe nudged it. I don't think he even nudged it at all, actually, from that angle. Looked like he was able to stop it. He lost time, but he did not lose position. Leighton, interestingly, is the one that is chasing him, his championship rival. It was about 8 seconds between himself and Cuero. It has now been cut down to 3.
Yeah, and so what that's going to mean is now that he's going to have to be looking in that rear view mirror. I said it at the beginning of the race, Tenside Leighton needs some bad fortune to fall to his competitors in front of him. He's already gotten a little bit of it and has, by his own volition, gotten by Joshua Wolf for 4th.
Who are leaders. Eisler is really plugged up behind Barretto at this stage. This is not looking good for him, and in fact, Quinn has cut down that 1 second gap to 0.2 of a second. He has arrived.
Has indeed. Here he comes trying to get by Langlois again. Langlois is going to slow him down a little bit through the carousel. Ooh, he's going to have to check up even more. Now for Cal Quinn, he's just got to be very methodical about this. You don't want to go too wide through that first corner. We've seen what can happen. Nope, he doesn't do it. He backs off a little bit, but now he's going to have a slingshot going down into the keyhole.
I was going to say, if anything, I would expect him to wait for a move into the keyhole or into China Beach, braking hard into turn 2. Both of them nice and tucked in down to the apex. Wow, fantastic exit from Eisler. Just drops Cal Quinn like a bad habit.
Does indeed. Now he's going to try to get by Trepanier before they get into the braking zone. Looks like Eisler's going to be able to clear him. Hope he's going to hold up Cal Quinn. Ooh, Trepanier gets out of the way. I don't think that held up Cal Quinn nearly as much as Eisler wanted him to. It's now going to be a straight fight between the two for the next couple of moments. 3 seconds up the road, EJ O'Donnell lines.
And then beyond him, there's a battle for position between David and Genet. That might be a little more tricky depending on where they catch those two orange machines. Now, coming up through turn 11, he's keeping Cal Quinn at arm's length. It's about 0.6 of a second currently. 30 minutes left to go, so we're already a third of the way through. But despite being quicker in clear air, Christian doesn't seem as confident in the traffic like Cal Quinn.
No, Horatio is very much going for broke. They've already cut up to EJ O'Donnell lines. There they go, getting around him. Eisler able to make the move for the keyhole. Oh!
Not Cal Quinn. Cal Quinn gets held up. He's given space. O'Donnell lines saw him coming, but now he's flashing his lights at him. He did not like that move.
I'm not really sure why EJ is flashing there necessarily. That he's entitled to come to the inside if he is faster. He gave him space. Ooh, but now it's Eisler's turn to get caught up. He gets caught up behind that battle that we talked about with David, and Genet has to try to get through there. That's a very tricky place to go offline. Ooh, but there goes Cal Quinn getting caught out.
In the nick of time, he creates a buffer with the orange and black Porsche between them, but he can't seem to get by Genet. He'll get a good shot here through, as he spins the wheels through Thunder Valley. Now he finally gets past, and that is good timing because here comes Cal Quinn. He has to wait, go around the outside maybe, using that extra downforce. Yes, indeed. And this worked out very well for the 727, up to 1.2 seconds between P1 and P2.
Indeed, he'll be able to breathe a little bit easier now. And yeah, Joe, you mentioned Cal Quinn spinning those tires coming over the crest at Thunder Valley. That is so easy to do, even if you're in a higher gear. The way the track just falls away from you. Very, very easy to do in these high-powered LMP2s.
So I'm looking through the field. That's second place that now our prototype leader is lapping. Something must have happened to Jennifer McDonald because she came into the pits, had a 6-second stop. Now that's way too quick and also a little too early for a regular stop. So I'm not sure what that is about. Looking at that battle for third, Arnaud Genet has already resisted the likes of Ted Lowendick. But what about James David, his own teammate? How aggressive is he willing to be to try and get to spray the champagne?
Well, we heard from them last week saying, yeah, we are teammates. We don't want to wreck each other out, but we are racers and we are going to go for it. So these two Davidson guys, that they are certainly going to be thinking about that. But remember what I was saying, in that team's championship, they're not out of the realm of possibility here. So they're going to try to capitalize as much as they can.
They got another interruption coming. Mauricio Cuero, who doesn't have anybody to battle with directly, and he knows it. He's going to lift a little here on the front stretch. looking to set them up coming off of the first corner. Yeah, this is going to be a much easier task. He did lose a little time in it, but the car is safe at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he make contact with Genet?
He may have. If he didn't, it was paper thin margins.
Let's look at it from above. Yeah, here we go, from the helicopter. I don't know if Arnaud just tried to turn in. What happened here? Yeah, I guess he tried to turn in, and maybe it was a little bit of a late turn in as well from Cuero. This is an awkward, shallow line for him. Thankfully, nothing came of it, and they did not touch.
Yeah, so Cuero able to continue on here, but all of the taking a big cut of that curb there, almost up onto the grass. You can really see how much Horatio is just pushing here.
Lou Barretto, who is another on board that we've got today in the number 20, is trying to fight for 7th. He's also got the charging Russo looking to recover from his opening lap incident. This is from Barretto's perspective.
There you can see that just face of concentration, as I believe that is Wolf getting around Langlois. I was right the first time, up in front of him. And so now Lou's going to try to close back up on him. This is Ferrari versus Ferrari, a little bit far back, and now he's got to let another one of those faster LMP2s by.
Jeffrey Ooms, who is another recovery? No, I don't know what it is exactly, but the 97 is at the back of the field right now. And you can see, yeah, the 97 having a lonely race after what was looking like it was going to be a fun one at the start. It all fell apart after a couple of touches with Cuero. He's approaching Trepanier and has almost caught up to Wolf in front of him. That is for position.
Yeah, it is. He's done a very good job to be able to get up and get going on through it. A little bit close there as he gets by Trepanier, but able to do it. Cal Quinn in clear air, though, setting the fastest lap of the race, as you can see.
It feels like these LMP2s are having to make some rather forceful moves in traffic today. Is that just me? Am I imagining things?
No, not at all, Joe. And I think it's really just the nature of Mid-Ohio. You know, the passing zones, they're very infrequent here, and it's very easy to get caught out behind somebody. And so I think these LMP2s, they know they've got to take every advantage that they can. And if there is a fraction of a gap, they're going to go for it.
Speaking of gaps, Christian Eisler for a brief while was actually up to 2 seconds ahead of Cal Quinn now that he is past all of the GT field for the first time. But I think Horatio is putting his foot down. He's got it back down to 1.5 seconds. There you see the distance and the most recent laps on your screen. Let's stay with us. Let's see what the difference is as they come to cross for the 18th time.
On that last lap, Cal Quinn was able to go faster by about 0.4 of a second. They cross over now. Little bit more even there, I would say. Only about 0.03 of a second difference between the two.
Yeah, so Eisler has figured it out. And as we watch from the perspective of the 666, Cal Quinn has yet to win a race this season himself. In fact, the only other driver to win a race so far is Paulo Munoz. We haven't seen him for a bit as he's had other obligations. And Jeffrey Ooms, with another off, he's going to take the opportunity to head down into the pit lane. Trying to see, yeah, this is all on his own. Looks like he just went wide in the carousel and spun once he touched the grass. Man, I got to give a lot of credit to Arnaud Genet to put up with the constant mirror full of other cars and not give away this third place that he's inherited.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. There you see his teammate James David trying to pull a little bit of a toe on that LMP2 in front of him, but to no avail. And yeah, Joe, you are completely right. Genet just absolutely doing a driving masterclass at how to stay calm, cool, and collected under pressure.
Watching from across his rear wing, looking at James David, getting close to the halfway mark now. This race is really flying by. Will we see anybody else come in? Ohms, obviously, we saw pit. I mentioned Jennifer McDonald has been in and out, but I don't think that is a scheduled stop for her. So we're waiting for essentially the entire field to come in and take service for this 45-minute event. Through the first corner, David can't quite seem to get the edge over that 312.
Yeah, and obviously with these two being teammates, I don't think that's a setup advantage necessarily. Just a little bit of driving style difference here. Janae continuing to hold that line. They spread apart ever so slightly off of the keyhole. Little bit of a pull-in courtesy of the draft. I don't think it's going to be enough, though, going down into China Beach.
Got a battle brewing for 7th yet again. Langlois has Barretto and Russo right with him.
And Joe Eisler is in the pits.
Ooh, something of an early stop again. We'll keep an eye on that while we keep the cameras right here and inform you if anything unusual happens. But pretty much 3 Ferraris all line astern.
Yeah, most certainly. There they go, coming through Thunder Valley right now. Looks like a little bit maybe better of a run there for Barretto, trying to get onto the back of Langlois. Remember, they spread apart more than a bit during traffic. Barretto able to pull them back together. Ooh, it looks like there that Russo's a little bit better on the binders as they get down into the carousel, able to claw a little bit of that time to that red Ferrari in front of him back.
Eisler's pit stop ended without incident, but he came out behind Leighton. And that could make the difference here. Remember, it was only about a 1.5 seconds between himself and Cal Quinn. If he gets held up, this could allow the 666 to jump him.
Oh, it could, and Tiensai Leighton is not going to be one to let him by. He wants all the points he can get, courtesy of that championship fight he is in. Eisler doing a good job getting up over the crest before Thunder Valley here.
But remember, they're on different strategies. Leighton has not pitted yet. He goes wide through the corner. Wow, really chops down. That is one of the more unusual lines I've ever seen through the carousel. It seemed to work decently.
Yeah, there's a little bit of off-camera banking through that corner, so running a little bit wide as Leighton did is not normally the way to go and a little bit more difficult to do. But, you know, if it works for Tiensai, keep doing it, my friends. Absolutely.
So we'll get a sense now on this lap what kind of times Eisler is running, being stuck behind Tiensai Leighton. Cal Quinn last lap a 12.5. That's not ridiculously fast. His quickest is a 12.2. In fact, let's see. Yeah, it looks like Cal Quinn does hold the fastest lap currently.
He does, and I don't think Eisler's going to be setting one on this lap all the way through madness. They're just massive checkups behind Leighton. That's going to cost him a lot of lap time.
Looks like Russo has gotten by Barretto. And Barretto might actually fight back here. He's got a great run. Maybe thinking about it over under as we hop on board the red Ferrari. Little damage on the back of Russo from the early incident. No, looks like Barretto will not be able to get that one back.
Yeah, I think he had the run if he wanted it. He may have lifted ever so slightly coming into there, just not wanting to damage it. I think there's certainly a mentality here that if he can keep close to the back of Russo, he may be able to find a way by Jean-Claude Langlois if he is able to do that. Russo obviously out of position. He's got a faster car, qualified much better than any of these guys around him.
DJ, I have bad news for fans of Christian Eisler. That last lap was a 13.5. Cal Quinn ran a 12.6. That alone might allow Horatio to jump past him in the pit stops. This is working out horribly for Christian.
And Christian knows it. He is really starting to get aggressive with the back of Tiensai Leighton, but we continue to watch Cal Quinn here, able to navigate his way by some slower traffic in that GT class. Let's see what his lap is this time out as he crosses over the line. It's 12.6.
And did we have another issue for Cuero? Oh yeah, he had a spin off track into Thunder Valley. Actually did a good job keeping this from becoming worse. Look, the spin starts so early.
That's very strange there, Joe. I almost wonder if that's a situation of just coming into that corner with a little bit too much steering lock and a little bit too much braking force, and those rear tires just locking and snapping away from him. You normally see that spin, that similar type of spin happening at the exit of that corner.
I have to imagine maybe he touched the grass a little bit on the way in, or maybe it was the curb. I don't know. Whatever the case, it lost him a little bit more time yet again to second place. Or, well, yeah, I guess it will be second place because he's not going to overtake Cal Quinn here. Meanwhile, Eisler's still stuck behind that last lap. Another lap in the 13s, a 13.2 this time. Cal Quinn last time a 12.6. And in fact, Horatio is going to keep going at 12.4. Eisler absolutely has to be behind that 666 by the time they pit this time. If I'm frank, I don't understand why he came in so early.
I'm not sure either, Joe. We have seen the undercut getting a little aggressive there with that wide line that we always see Tiensai Leighton taking. Eisler not going for the full send, but he is getting very, very agitated behind that wheel. But yeah, Joe, I don't know why he would come in that early. We've seen the undercut not really play out a whole lot over the course of these races, so I'm not sure what he was playing at.
And even with what seems to be a pretty decent pace advantage, can't seem to overtake that number 19. This is a little closer. I don't think it's good enough, though. They're going to have some traffic. Maybe Lavadier can play a part of it. He's going to stay off to the left side. It will compromise the entry for Leighton. Not so for Eisler. He gains a little bit of it back. Up in front of them, Philippe Magnan up next.
And they're going to catch him at another bad point for Leighton, depending on when this comes down. Eisler closer than I've seen him for a while. You can see just how much he's working that steering wheel. Now, careful here, Christian, not too early on the throttle. There he goes. He's got it perfectly. He does have a good run on Leighton. He may be able to try to make a very gutsy move here. He is closer than he has ever been.
Decides not to do it into the carousel. That one takes some bravery to get that move to stick. Can he set him up maybe for the keyhole or China Beach? Loses it under the wake of that 19 car. Heard another driver come in. Looks like that's Lavadier, so that's one of our drivers farther down the field in the GTs. Yet more traffic. This is Jennifer McDonald trying to hold off to the left side.
Does her best job, but that really hurt Christian there. That gap between himself and Tiensai Leighton ballooning out now to about 0.7 of a second. He's got all the work to do. And again, Joe, that last lap for Eisler, a 14 flat. Cal Quinn's last lap, a 13.3.
His only saving grace was the fact that Cal Quinn did hit some traffic, so that slowed him down some. James David just pitted in. Fourth place in the GT class before he pitted. Waiting for that fuel to finish off. And that looks to be Russo pitting along with Barretto.
Yeah, both of the Ferraris here choosing to come in. We may be looking at the end of the fuel window for some of these GT cars. Wouldn't be surprised if we start to see them coming in. The real question, though, is going to be when these LMP leaders decide to make the dash into pit lane.
Horatio Cal Quinn goes around for another lap. This time a 13 flat for him. He's struggling a bit in the lap traffic. That's about the only thing I can think of that maybe Eisler was banking on to not catch up to these GT cars. If so, he could have gone for a few more laps, and maybe then he would have been past Leighton if he did. Ooh, this is a big holdup, though. Is this going to give Eisler back what he lost? Cal Quinn sitting patiently behind O'Donnell lines. Let's watch and see what his lap is going to be like across the stripe.
Elects not to go into the pits, keeps it on out. Here he comes, watching for that timing screen. Looks like that's going to be a
13.4.
Yeah, so that's slow for him. Eisler's last lap was a 13.2, although he is still held up behind Leighton. He's now coming through the carousel, so we'll keep an eye on that as we watch Cal Quinn making his way around some more lap traffic through the keyhole.
Yeah, I think Eisler's going to need to make up more than just a couple tenths here. It was a 13-1, so Eisler was faster by about 0.3 of a second. It's just not going to do it, though. He's going to leave behind Teddy Lowendick now, who stays off to the side for the pair of them.
Joe, and go ahead.
I was going to say, let's give is Cuero in? No, Cuero with another mistake. This is atypical of the 79. We've now seen 2 times where he's made contact with drivers in his class and 2 decently sized offs, this time with actual contact with the wall. Here it goes into the gravel. He knows it's happening. He's trying to recover it, but he sideswipes the tires and returns actually behind both Leighton and Eisler.
Yeah, just way too much speed there down into China Beach, and that's what caught him out. The car just couldn't grip. Those front tires screaming out for something, not able to do it. That really, really hurts Cuero. And Joe, as you said, utterly uncharacteristic of the 79.
Well, he's going to take the opportunity to try and pit. Ooh, locks up the brakes, trying to maximize that entry. Now, they do not have a spare car, so that damage, if it's bad enough, he is going to have to sit and wait to see if it'll cost him time to repair. Last pit stops for our other 2 that have come in are 7.2 and 6.9. 6.7 for Cuero. Very fast stop.
Very fast indeed. It'll be now up to him to see if he will be able to make it on through there. Maybe have to do just a hair of fuel saving, but I don't anticipate too much.
So last time through, Cal Quinn with a 12.2. This time, Cal Quinn with a 12.7. Eisler with a 13.5 last time. There's another just huge chunk of time going the way of the dodo. So we got, looks like Arnaud Genet, 3rd place driver in the GTEs, also pitting. Now he, remember, is fighting with James David, so that's going to be important to see who is able to get in and out quicker in their pit stop strategy.
It is indeed, and I can report that James David right about now coming past the main straightaway. I believe Genet...
He's out.
Yep.
And he is easily ahead of the 89. So no change between those 2, but they're still waiting for the top 5 to take their pit stops. Oh, who was that off? Oh, that was Johnny Luna. That was the 14. Farther back down the field, he's going to be able to return without further incident. Ooh, and Desjardins is going to pit. Still waiting on about half of our LMP2s to take fuel. Cal Quinn, Leighton, and Wolf, and our leader in the GTEs pits. Don Skorek brings the number 75 towards his pit stall. Ross was a bit of a distance behind. It was almost 4 seconds when you saw Don coming into pit lane. So don't think we're going to get a jump, but don't count out everything.
No, an 8.7 second stop for Skorek, though. That looks like it's a little bit of an overfuel potentially. Normally seeing those GT stops down in the 7 seconds. So a little bit longer stationary for your leader.
Oh, looks like we got a couple more. Teddy Lowendick joining one of our blue and white cars, Jean-Claude Langlois. He's going to get back out in 8th place, I think. Oh, and Teddy missed his pit stall to add to his issues.
It's a bad race for Teddy, and he is going to be kicking himself for that one. He's able to pilot himself back on. It's a tricky entry and exits here.
Horatio Calquin with another fastest lap of the race at 12.1. So going purple, Eisler is still stuck behind Leighton. In fact, he's dropping off behind Leighton. He's losing time to the 19. And Cal Quinn has just been rifling him off. But what fascinates me too is that he seems to be pretty good on fuel too, because We've only got 8 minutes left. This is way late into a stint.
It very much is. It very, very much is. Now, the one saving grace here that Christian Eisler may just have, I'm looking at the gap in between Eisler and Cal Quinn, and it stands at about 28.5 seconds as is. Now, we've seen a lot of these guys in the LMP2 class take anywhere between 25 to 27 seconds to get through the entirety of pit lane, including their stop. That does not take into account speed up and slow down coming in and out of pit lane. So this may be a hair closer, and here's the time to decide. Cal Quinn into the pits.
Okay. My money is honestly on him jumping Christian Eisler based on the lap times that we've been seeing. But he's got to get a good pit stop. He can't miss his stall like we saw with Lowendick. This is Christian coming up.
He missed it. Cal Quinn missed the stall.
He overshot it. The 666 is going to have a slightly long stop. Is this enough to give Eisler a hope? He is right on top of his rival right now. He's battling, and no, Cal Quinn is out ahead of him with ease.
And Joe, this is why I should never be allowed to do math on air. Cal Quinn able to get out with such a gap there. Looks like it's about 3.5 seconds back to Christian Eisler.
And Eisler still didn't manage to overtake Tien Tsai. He got right on top of his bumper. As Leighton, is he going to be under threat? I think there might be an attempt from Eisler. No, he wasn't close enough down into China Beach.
And not able to make it work, but through that second part of the corner in that turn 5 complex, Eisler just so much stronger. This has got to be so frustrating for Christian. Yet again, another race that he just wasn't able to get anything done. We continue to watch, though, Cal Quinn able to come out into clean air and continue to grow that gap.
And unfortunately for Christian, Leighton is one of the latest pitters in this race. Only he and Wolf need to come in, and he's still not coming into pit. There's our leader on screen, Cal Quinn, with a gap of roughly 4 seconds over Leighton. Eisler will re-inherit second place, but taking a look at that, the damage has been done. Looks like Josh Wolf pitted behind them.
Yeah, with Wolf down pit lane, the only LMP2 left to pit is the fly in the ointment of Christian Eisler's day, Tien Tsai Leighton. But I truly have to give credit to Tien Tsai here. He has driven a really, really good race. And as I said, remember, he is locked into a championship battle. And so he needed to try to hold this out as long as he could. And he has done this perfectly.
Well, his fuel-saving game is certainly on point. But that's to the dismay of Christian Eisler, who's going to want to get himself a strategist on the box for the next race. Going to watch from his perspective, looking over the dash down into the carousel once again. Now, is he going to pit? Yes, finally, the 19 comes in to hand away that second place. Where is Cuero? Yeah, I think Leighton is going to get himself yet another podium.
It's going to be a little bit tight, potentially. Cuero coming through the carousel right now. Leighton has yet to move from his stall. Waiting for it. And Leighton on the way. Oh, they're coming out right together, Joe.
Wow, I was not expecting that. And it looks like Cuero is going to beat him. I thought with all of his off tracks that he would be behind Tien Tsai. So the battle is on now for the last step on the podium.
And that is your GTE class leader, Don Skoric, right ahead of them. The Cuero is trying to get by right now. Now, remember, neither of these guys took tires, so it's not like Tien Tsai's got a different kind of advantage there. He's just got to do this on merit and merit alone.
Now, speaking of merit, what about the points in the GT Championship? I checked real quick. There's a 3-point difference between first and second before we get into the bonus points. So that's going to swing it back to a 9-point difference between Ross and Skoric. We'll have to check the bonus points afterwards to see how tight that closes in. Let's see, coming around, this is Cuero that we're watching. I think Cal Quinn passed through with about 3 minutes to go, maybe a little bit more than that. So running at a minute 12 lap times here. I think we're gonna get about 3 more to go.
That should be about right. We continue to watch Cuero, though. He's now got that's Desjardins in between himself and Leighton. Cuero really looking like he does have the match of the 19 here, about 1.6 seconds up the road, and that gap's not shrinking.
We're going to look at O'Donnell Lines and James David. This is for 4th position, getting quite close to the rear bumper of the green and black BMW. Don't think that gave him the exit he wanted. Looks like he's falling away. Maybe that stunted his momentum, even though it is only 3/10 coming down the straight.
Yeah, blundered him off ever so slightly there, but continues to try to fight up here as he can. You can see him pushing over the edge of the hill. Now they come back out of the S's, trying to get into Thunder Valley. Does he have anything to go?
Doesn't look like it. We've also gotten some information. Whoa, that was a big twitch. 2 big twitches coming from O'Donnell Lines, trying to hold on for dear life. The 89 gets ever closer because of those errors. Can he get the over-under? Maybe. He's looking for the exit onto the front stretch. Now, that's not going to do it.
No, it's not, but he may have a run down here into the keyhole if he wants it. Has to keep behind in that tricky turn 1 that we've seen a couple of drivers get caught out by. He's able to do it quite well. David now's got some more legs behind him. We've heard how good that Porsche is in a straight line. Looks to the outside. He's not going to be able to make the move into the keyhole, but that may set him up for a good run down the backstretch. Ooh, a little bit of oversteer. That may catch him out.
He's within 0.2 of a second. This is going to suck him up to the rear of the 24. No defense quite yet from EJ, and he won't need it. David doesn't stick his nose in.
No, he does not. Able to draw up a little bit there, third turn 5, but still nothing doing quite yet.
I think we are on the white flag lap. Yes, we are. Cal Quinn is on the backstretch with 10 seconds to go. So these two will get one more lap to try and sort this out once they come across the line. Oh, and Leighton's in the pits for a second time.
Oh,
Not sure why. There goes a 4th place finish for him. And the championship slips further away. We've got to go away from this fight on screen for 4th, because Horatio Cal Quinn will be only our 3rd winner of the season after 8 rounds. Victory in Mid-Ohio for the 666.
That has got to feel good for Horatio. Was able to win it on pit strategy. Pit strategy alone. Coming across the line, though, in second, your pole sitter. And that was Christian Eisler, losing a bit of a heartbreaker here, it has to be said.
Cuero will round out the podium. Squirix got quite a ways to go. Well, I say that, actually, the laps here are pretty quick. He's coming into Thunder Valley. But the 75 will strike back once again. The wins between himself and Ross had come down to 3-4. 3 for Ross, 4 for Squirrick. Now it's going to grow once again. 5 wins for Don Squirrick, half of the season, as he reels in his rival with victory at Mid-Ohio.
Doing exactly what he needs to do. His title rival, though, Michael Ross, is going to come across the line in second place in that category.
Third to Genet, with O'Donnell Lines eventually fending off David in that 5th spot. Looks like the last one coming across going to be Jennifer McDonald, with a 9th place, gaining 2 from her beginning in this race. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Round 8 in the PRL Sportscar Series saw our third different winner on the season, Horatio Cal Quinn, with a win from the front row as Christian Eisler still seeking that victory. He does take second, but it was a strategy call that scuppered him. Mauricio Cuero mysteriously had mistakes all over the place today. He started from third and yet somehow finished in third, but certainly was not his own best friend. Josh Wolf finished fourth with Jeffrey Ooms in a P5, and Leighton with an extra stop that we're not sure what the cause was rounds out our small field of prototypes.
In that GT field, it was Don Squirk able to take advantage of some early damage to his rivals to take the win, followed by his title rival, Michael Ross. Behind them, Arnaud Genet came home in third, and EJ O'Donnell Lyons was able to withstand the very fearsome pressure from James David to hold on to fourth and fifth. Rafael Russo on a very good recovery drive. He was one of those drivers involved in that early incident to come home sixth, followed by Jean-Claude Langlois in seventh. Vincent Trepanier was eighth in class, followed by Jennifer McDonald in ninth. That early pit stop for her, by the way, was her only stop, so she made that work, and Lou Barretto rounds out your top 10 in GTE. Behind Lou, Teddy Lowendick, also recovering from an error early on, came home in 11th, followed by Gabrielle Lavadier, Philippe Magnan, and Marc-Andre Desjardins, with Johnny Luna rounding out your top 15, with Thomas Cope retiring, as was Morris and Plord.
And that brings us to an interview with our winner in the GT class. Inheriting this one a bit, Don, but you got to take what you can get, along with those 2 bonus points that you also were scrounged up today. Trying to get those points back in after suffering a penalty at Hockenheim, it seems.
Yeah, the penalty has really kind of put a damper on my championship hopes here. But all I can do is really kind of just keep fighting, try and win, hopefully put some cars between Ross and I. It kind of seemed like it may fall that way. I made a mistake in qualifying. I thought I grabbed a gear where I did not. I think the 5/1000ths or whatever it was there. But yeah, that was down to a mistake by me, which is kind of a thing I need to correct all season. My qualifying has always been my Achilles heel here.
Well, and with things as tight as they are between you and Ross, do you look at that bonus point that you missed for the pole and think that could be a critical point, or are you not going that nitty gritty about it?
Oh, absolutely. The bonus points are, I think, what's going to end up deciding this championship here, because Ross is always solid. No matter what, he's always going to find himself right up at the front. So there's not going to be a huge point swing in any one particular weekend, unless something drastic happens, like I run out of fuel or I get disconnected. I think he had one issue at Long Beach, and yeah, so it's going to be rare one-offs where something happens.
Well, the bad news on that front is that the next round is going to be at Montreal. So does that make you at all nervous? That one is kind of notorious for gobbling up cars.
Not necessarily. Both Montreal and Imola, the last 2 circuits on the calendar, leave me a little bit excited, because the Ferrari tends to be good over, particularly over high curbs onto long straights. It's always gone well at places like there, Monza. So at least I think the Ferrari will have a good advantage going in. So it's just up to me to take advantage of that and grab it, and grab those bonus points and see what I can do about beating these other quick guys around me.
Well, we'll watch out for you. Congratulations on the win, and hope to get to talk to you again.
All right. Thank you.
That was Don Squirk, winner here today. Up next, DJ is caught up with second, Michael Ross.
Well, Michael, another race, another battle with Squirk out at the front. Not your best qualifying, but able to take advantage of some early problems to take this podium.
I can't hear any. You can hear.
Can you hear me now, Michael?
Looks like we got a few issues with Michael Ross's microphone. We'll try and get him back in a little bit. But in the meantime, I've also got Arnaud Genet, who finished third today. Great climb up from 6th on the grid. Helped a little bit by cars going off in front of you. But I'm curious, when your teammate was behind you and when others were coming in threatening, were you able to keep your cool?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a very intense battle with Lowendick at the beginning. I was able to pass him on the inside because I was on the inside for the pace lap, but he was giving me a lot of sweats for sure. and James had great pace, but since we're teammates, we kind of have our internal rules. And so he was not able to make the pass cleanly. So that's why he just dropped back and calling like LMP2's coming in back of me, so I could just focus in front. But of course, just like any other race, Michael and Don are so quick. So it was kind of a lonely race, but quite happy with the result, to be honest.
Now, we saw the leader in the prototypes give away the lead with an early pit stop and then getting stuck in traffic. Were you keeping that in mind with your pit strategy, just wanting to go long, knowing how hard it is to try and overtake here?
Oh, yeah. I knew that track position was key here, even though I think I was a bit slower than a couple of those drivers in front. There was no way that I was going to pit early just to make that pass again and again. So I was just keeping on track and stay out as long as possible. And in the end, I think it paid off. But in this, I did a couple of official races in here this weekend. There was no way like early pit could work. So just going for the long run. An home run, I would say, to me at least.
Well, speaking of home runs, you are heading to home track territory with Montreal. Are you excited about that?
Oh, yeah, totally. Even though I don't think it's my favorite track, it's still home territory, so it's always a fun place to race. But the Porsche is not so good in straights, and those close walls can end up your race, but in the end, it's home, so it's always feeling comfortable. So I hope to have a good results. It's 2 for 2 for the team. P3, P4 last week. Let's hope a P5 and up would be perfect to me.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm hoping for that as well, that it is a special one. Your team certainly seems to be on a good streak. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, of course, GSRC, you guys doing a great job. PRL, all of the sponsors of the league. Thank you for Advance SimRacing that has joined our new panel for next season of sponsors. So glad they can join. And thank you guys and my teammates, especially James, that keep protecting me from any threats tonight.
Always good to have a rear gunner. Just ask Mercedes and Red Bull. That was Arnaud Genet, our third place finisher here tonight, and looks like, unfortunately, that's going to close out as we were not able to solve the problems with Michael Ross. So hopefully we'll get to talk to him maybe on another evening. In the meantime, that does allow us the time to give some thanks to our sponsors, including Simulation Motorsports Affinity. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. As well as NinjaTrader. Get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance by visiting NinjaTrader.com. As well as Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. excuse me, thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. I'll ask them for a throat lozenge later. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. There's also our social media outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. There's a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, is at Montreal, Tuesday, May 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Up next, it's going to be the Flying Huskies at Okayama. That kicks off at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.